So several of you have joined us the last couple of weeks, so thanks for jumping back in. And I hope it's been beneficial. So the goal of these are going to be to just learn from each other. Today I have my friend Luke McElroy's on with us. He's underwater right now, but he's going to be hanging
In
out and
more
kind of
ways than
helping me
one,
with
Carl. More
that.
ways than one.
That is so true, my friend. So me and Luke will kind of tag team today. The discussion, but kind of the goal is just for us to learn from each other. So feel free to raise your hand, jump into the conversation. It's going to be a little bit different than the last couple of weeks in that we're going to break more often along the way. So the last couple of weeks I've kind of gone for 10-15 minutes or so, just kind of giving recommendations and things I'm seeing. So this week is going to be more of like question discussion kind of thing. So this week's roundtable is sponsored by Salt University. Luke, you want to talk about Salt U for a minute?
Yeah. So we were laughing a little bit earlier because I actually made this just because I said, how are we going to tell people about Salt U? But Salt University has been a product that our team put out several years ago, basically as a way to take all the video recordings from Salt Conference. For those of you who have never heard of Salt Conference, we believe in the local church, and we believe that creatives, many of the people who I see on this call right now have been to Salt, and I know are part of the Salt community. So that's cool. Thanks for being a part of this. But they can maybe in the chat validate the sort of quality of some of the stuff we want to do and the heart we have for local church. But we decided to take all the video recordings from every single workshop, speaker, keynote, panel discussion, interview, whatever, and a bunch of other stuff we've recorded over the years and throw it into a website called Salt University. And so you can go sign up there, saltuniversity.com. We have a free trial that you can sign up for a free class. I think it's like 12 to 20, somewhere in there, classes for free. This would be a great time to just hang out and learn something while you've got a little bit more downtime at your house, especially next week once we're past Easter and hopefully the hustle and the grind isn't as real. Maybe that would be a great time to kind of pick up how do you learn a little bit more about lighting for camera or graphic design or animation with some people on there, or volunteer growth, and so you can kind of really get your chops up. But the cool part about this, there's a $14 14-day trial you guys can sign up for that. By the way, Carl, I'm seeing a meeting time remaining of 9 minutes. Are you seeing that?
I am too. I don't know why that is.
I'll work on it. Okay. Keep going, guys. I'll work on it.
So yeah, so for $14, you guys can do the all access account. So would allow you guys to actually create a custom training program. You can invite up to 50 team members in, manage their accounts. You can add any video from the Salt University library into that custom training portal as well. You can put anything from YouTube or Vimeo that you find out there. So if you want to use this as a chance, and we'll talk about this maybe later if this is a topic, but what a great time while we're quarantined to sort of connect with all your volunteers and grow together, or connect your tech or video or creative team and say, hey, how do we learn in this time period of sort of isolation and separation? How can we still learn together? We feel like Salt University may be that platform. So you guys can take a look at that. I know when we post this later, Carl, you're going to have the video here, but go to saltuniversity.com. You can take a look at that. And any of our team is around. Send us some emails, reach out to us on Facebook. We'd love to help however we can. So that's a little bit of Salt University. There's like 450 classes already in there. So,
all right. So as Steve is kind of looking at this, we might change to another link. We'll let you know, and we can go to that same link if we need to change links so we can get a longer meeting time. But Luke, before we do that, you want to jump into some prayer?
Yeah, let's pray for us. God, we come to you all as people just desperate to make the most of this time. Lord, you've given each of us gifts, talents, abilities, insights, wisdom, knowledge. And God, I just pray that those listening to this and those on this call, that we use these discussions as a way to further our advancement of the kingdom here on earth. That God, just because we're socially distant doesn't mean that we can't be the church. You've never defined the church by a building or a gathering of people in person, God, that you have allowed us to be spiritual beings to reach those in our community. So God, I just pray this week you'd fill us up with hope. You'd fill us up with the joy. You'd allow us to laugh and smile and not be overwhelmed by all that's going to go on. But God, that you would use the gifts and the talents, the abilities of those in this room, in this meeting, who are hearing my voice. Would you use their gifts, their talents to reach more people for the gospel this week? In a time of just so much uncertainty, maybe it's the church that would be this strong guiding light in our communities, and that our churches may grow in this time period. We may be able to reach more people, and more people in our communities and our neighborhoods may be able to hear and be transformed by the saving grace and mercy, and glory of your Son. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I want to kind of start this week a little bit different. I want to kind of start with kind of an open floor. So as people are jumping back in, I would love to just kind of get your questions. So raise your hand. I'd love to kind of jump into what did you have trouble with over the last couple of weeks that we can roundtable on and try to solve together. So just kind of raise your hand or jump in and let's just start talking. What did you struggle with 2 weeks ago or yesterday that you need help solving? And mute your mic as you come in, if you would. Hey, Jordan, you want to get us started? How did things go for you guys yesterday?
Good. I think we're really in the groove of things, Boxcast has been solid, and I had the service done by Thursday night for once. It was great. So yeah, we're rocking and rolling. So
good. John Mark, how about you guys?
We actually did YouTube for the second time this week, and that's been real great, having that additional platform so people can watch from their living rooms. We got huge response from that.
What is something that you either struggle with and solved, or are still struggling with and need a solution for? Anybody? Everybody's running flawlessly.
I want to know this. I'll just ask this. I don't know how we can poll this. Raise your hand if you guys are doing a true live stream. How many of you raise your hand if you're doing a pre-recorded or a simulated live stream? That's cool.
Yeah. For those who raised their hand with live stream only, Rob, speak to this. Have you guys struggled at all? Have you had a stream go down or anything like that?
It's going pretty well. This was pretty new for us before all this blew up in our faces. We didn't have live stream at all. So once it happened, we said we've got to go online. So we turned it on. First week it was just Facebook Live, and that was okay, but it had a lot of limitations, obviously. So then the second week we were able to add YouTube, able to add a link directly from our website. That went a lot better. I think Facebook crashed the second week because probably 49 zillion people were all doing Facebook Live at once. But with these other pieces added to it, it's going pretty well. But that's one thing I wanted to kind of ask about. But since we're brand new into this, we only have one camera at this point, and so for the worship, it's a pretty far back pan of the whole platform, and you really can't even tell who the people are particularly.
Can you get your camera closer at all? Maybe even on the stage?
Well, no, it's a fixed camera on the back wall.
Okay.
And it'll zoom. We zoom it in for the pastor, so it can zoom in and zoom out.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask if you guys had recommendations on reasonable ways to add a second camera that could give us a little better production.
Luke, Steve, you got any input on that?
Rob, do you have like a video switcher, or are you just taking that camera and going straight into your live stream?
There's not a video switcher, I don't believe, at that campus. It's just the camera going straight into live stream.
Yeah, it'll be tough to do a multi-camera true live stream without some sort of video switcher or software that you could potentially put 2 different video cameras into.
Yeah.
Is a simulated live possible? Like, my thought right now is, could you record your service, midweek, and then could you play it back through ProPresenter or MediaShot or Easy Worship, whatever, and actually do a live stream, but it's not actually live?
That's something that could be on the table for discussion for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, John Mark.
So my friend's a worship leader at church about 30 minutes south of me, and they've never streamed before, and they have the same issue with just one camera connected to a computer. They've gone to an acoustic worship set with just their music minister, and they moved the entire stage platform and a television closer to the TV, kind of create, while they're still in the sanctuary using their sound system, they've been able to accomplish a one camera shoot very nicely.
Yep. So that kind of brings us into this. I want to talk through a couple of recommendations. A couple of you guys have heard this over the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to repeat because we have a lot of new folks. So here's what I'm recommending, and you guys, you might have a different setup, but I'm kind of recommending the pre-recorded package service and simulated live. And here are my reasonings for that. I think if your live stream goes down, you're kind of sunk. But if you have a pre-recorded video that's already on Vimeo or already on YouTube or something that you can point people to a link if your stream went down, then you have some more backup plans in place. So pre-recorded and simulated live is kind of the direction that I'm going. Is there anybody, I know last week we had a couple people, is there anybody doing drive-up church at all? Anybody doing that?
We're doing that as well.
Okay. What's been your experience with that, Rob?
We've done it for 2 weeks, and it's going okay. We do live worship and preaching from a hillside. This is actually a shot that I took that's behind me, kind of off to the side. It's not the direct straight on shot, but so we set up a very minimalistic band with 4 singers, and we do the worship set. Pastor's coming from the other campus because he's doing the live online at 10. He's preaching. He's got about 20 minutes to get from campus to campus. Comes strolling in a few minutes before he comes up on the hill to preach, and we set up. One good thing is that the local radio station. We're in a small town. Local radio station. We were already on at 11 with back in the old day from our 8:30 service.
So your stream.
So yeah, they just come out and they set up and put it live onto the radio from our location, and But we also set up speakers in the parking lot to kind of cover the parking lot with speakers. It's a little better sound quality than folks trying to listen to this pretty small radio station, even on their car radios.
Yeah, good. Okay, so another thing that I'm still noticing is it's hard to find your live stream on your homepage. So I want to kind of get into that. I want to recommend you to put your watch live links right there right in the middle of your homepage. And then, so here's a couple of things, and then I want to ask a question. So don't use full screen lyrics. I'm seeing some churches use like motion backgrounds with full screen lyrics. For a 3 or 4 song set, that just does not translate to a live stream because you're not seeing a person. So if you can do lower third lyrics, definitely go there. Also, I'm still recommending like a living room or intimate setting. So even if you're live streaming, if you're on stage, put your pastor in a more intimate setting rather than a big, huge, empty stage. And your worship team the same way. So maybe one guy with an acoustic, or two people with kind of an acoustic, intimate kind of worship set feel. I have seen on Facebook a lot of people nervous about your worship teams all together, like on top of each other. And they're like, it makes me nervous that we're social distancing in real life, but we're on top of each other as our worship team. So those are just a few points. You guys speak to that. How have you changed your homepage or your website, or how does some of those recommendations hit you guys?
Christopher Wilson.
Hey, man.
What's up, guys? I'll jump in. Yeah, I definitely need to, thanks for that encouragement, put something on our homepage. We have been doing like fully live on Sunday mornings. I've been talking with our team based on last Monday's roundtable and a bunch of other people I'm hearing from about pre-recording, talking through our options there, and everybody's kind of jumping on board with that last week. So moving for our Good Friday service and our Easter Sunday, we're actually going to pre-record this week. And so, that's something, because we have been having some issues live. Like YouTube has been super unreliable for us. It worked for our 9 o'clock yesterday smoothly, and then the 11, for some reason, it just wouldn't receive the signal. And it started at like 2 minutes till the end of the gathering finally. So, that's kind of how it's been going for us. Facebook has been working pretty well. We haven't had any issues. We're seeing a lot more engagement than we're used to, which is awesome. And one of your recommendations you had for us last week, and we're seeing the benefit of that is anybody that's not at the building, any pastors or staff, they're engaging in the comments constantly. And if you guys aren't doing that, you definitely should be, because we're seeing that really hit home with people, and it's working well. So, based on our experience, my big question for you guys is I'm curious as to what y'all are seeing. I know there's Premiere is an option for Facebook and YouTube, but I see Jay Lear's comment there that he's using Zoom and OBS to actually go live with the pre-recorded. So I'm curious, like, I don't know what the best option is there and what everybody recommends and how it's going for everybody.
Yeah, I recommend the premiering your video on Facebook. So pre-recorded, simulated live, premiere on Facebook. Either you can use OBS or something like that, but have a dedicated landing page for your stream, like a free onlinechurch.com. And again, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think, but the engagement rates on Facebook is really low. Then YouTube is like 10 to 15 minutes. And then but if you're dedicated, either your website or a dedicated landing page, it shoots an engagement rate shoots up to like 40, 50 minutes. Now it might be a little bit off because more people are want to watch their full church service, but that's the normal engagement rate on those platforms. So if you can go to even if you're streaming on Facebook or streaming on YouTube, if you can place that stream on like a free onlinechurch.com or your own website, then you're going to have a better engagement rate. People are going to stay longer and engage with you more.
How long are people staying right now, do you think? What's the average?
Well, I do know that I do know that the average engagement rate on your website or on a dedicated landing page is 40 to 50 minutes, as opposed to Facebook, which is 2 to 5, and YouTube, I think, is 10 to 15. And these stats come from the Living as One streaming guys.
So I know I see Jay Santos here. I think that's Joey Santos. He's at CC Live in Cincinnati. And one of the things that I'm really impressed with, which Joey, if you're there and able to jump into this, I would love for you to share a little bit on two things. One, you guys have done a great job through the years because they've been doing live stream for a long time and really working on how do you create a volunteer culture through online. So they actually have had remote camera operators before. I know they have a whole team of people to engage with chat. So it's not just pastors, but it's like lay members and volunteers. Joey, if you can speak a little bit into maybe some of the things you guys are doing now to try and engage volunteers with this online platform piece.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for inviting me here. Great to connect with a lot of you guys. What's going on? Yeah, we actually have a good group of volunteers. Our online campus started with the idea of engagement based online environment. So we apply heavily content on engaging people. So our volunteers, we have a group of volunteers that started from our church within the church, but now we got volunteers that has been with us only as online attendees. So we got volunteers on the schedule from Oklahoma, we got volunteers from Canada, and they all follow um, the all on planning center. They got scheduled, and they carry the conversation. Um, and the idea is to really, they know how to carry the conversation. We have a basic script for key moments of the service, but we get volunteers to really almost trying to engage you one-on-one with people, greeting people by names, and carrying the conversation, asking people how they're doing, and we've seen a lot of success on that. The next thing that we did recently, we had a feature called Click to Call, and we have volunteers ready to receive calls that people can click right on their broadcast, and they can talk to people that just want a prayer or they want to have questions, because the chat room is great, but sometimes people like, I want to hear somebody's voice, I want to talk to somebody, here's what's going on. So so that's how we engage on the volunteer side, and engage the audience that are with us, and try to make them feel as comfortable and as included. That's the idea. The idea is like you're part of what we're doing.
I love that click to call idea. I also think we could probably even take that a step further, where like maybe there's pastors on a Zoom call that you could click to Zoom and, you know, engage in a little bit more of a sort of regular face-to-face look. I think with internet streaming and this whole online church, we kind of were diving into this, Carl, the idea that watch times are so short. I know my friend Michael was just telling me that Greg Laurie gave salvation prayer 3 times in the broadcast at 3 different points, because they just didn't know when people were dropping in or dropping out. I think that's a great thing to think about as we're preparing Easter services this week. I know Passion City Church, I watched them last weekend or 2 weekends ago now, and they did a welcome almost every probably 10 minutes or so, because again, they just don't know when people are jumping in. And I, you know, I'll encourage everybody listening to this. I have heard a crazy story this past week from my friends at North American Mission Board. They told me there's a rural pastor in Kentucky that is kind of out in the boondocks, and they on a good Sunday have about 25 people coming to their regular service. And the last 2 weeks, he's been at like 85 and 87 online web streams. Yep. And so like this whole COVID-19 thing has caused their church to pretty much triple in size, which is crazy. And so I think there's an opportunity for all of us to learn from, to realize, hey, and I think, you know, Christopher, you mentioned this, or someone else, putting that link, hey, watch live on our website, making it very easy to find is so important, because if you think about it, you know, we're reaching new people. And if somebody texts a friend, hey, I'm watching this thing, maybe you'll be encouraged by it. Like, we need to make it as easy as possible for people to engage in our church online experiences.
Yeah. So kind of speaking of churches that are doing this well, you mentioned a couple, Luke, but I'm going to put a link in the side chat of a church, kind of my church of the week. So last 2 weeks, I've hit a lot of 2 or 3 weeks, I've hit a lot of different streams, and I shared church last week, I think, but this is kind of my favorite church of the week. This is Gainesville First UMC. I forget the location that they're, the state that they're in, but a couple of the things that I liked about this, if you guys want to hit that link, is I loved how you can watch services on their website. I love the buttons that they have. I love the give online was so clear, that you can connect with them. You don't have to go far and go to some contact us page and then fill out a form, or whatever. You might have to fill out a form, but it's immediate. You can connect with them on their homepage. You can get their online schedule. They have easy links to their kids, students, and adult worship services. So I'm hearing a lot of people. I'm a part of a lot of kids groups, and we serve a lot of kids ministries, and there's some tension there of, that a lot of parents don't know where to go for their kids, and there's a disconnect there. So if you can make the links easy for parents to get to a kid service, the student connection, the adult connection, all that, and then further down on their homepage they have their social media links. So somebody said in Georgia. Thanks, Daryl. But I just love the way that they've kind of revamped their whole homepage to go along with this. Anybody want to speak to how you might have revamped your homepage or made it clearer how people can connect? Jordan?
Yeah, we basically, because of COVID, had to take everything that we do online. So the main two things for us are worship and small groups. So those are really clear now on our homepage, how to get to worship and how to get to an online small group. So basically taking every next step out of the weekend, or every action step we want people to take, putting that right on our homepage is what we ended up doing. And I think that's working pretty well.
Anybody else want to jump in here with some changes
Yeah,
that you guys might have made?
We added 2 buttons just on our homepage. One is, how do you stay connected online? And then the other one's community resources. So, we have campuses all across the state of Virginia and Tennessee. And so there's people looking for that content. Those have been the 2 things that people have asked the most for. The nice thing about the sort of stay connected online is when you click on it, it's got kids, students, and adults all in one place. And that, to what you're saying, that's been huge, because we do have specific content for kids. We've got specific content for students and all of our adult stuff. So we're not just pushing, hey, go to, even the online campus page isn't the first page now. It's, hey, here's some ways you can stay connected. What are you looking for? You want a Facebook group? Do you want Instagram? What are you looking for? We can send them to one page, because it's amazing how, I don't know, people don't know where to go, right? It's shocking. The week before we did, it was one place down in our website on a little banner ad that we have 3 ads, that same link, and people were like, I don't know where to go. So we just stuck it in a button on the home screen video, and now no one's asked, so making little tweaks like that has been big for us.
Good. Anybody else?
Yeah, we built a whole new website and took our regular website and changed the landing page to just be everything coronavirus season is here. So everything on the regular website stayed the same. But that landing page shows you any updates, everything you need to know, front and center right there. And our new website has some similarities to the one that you showed by example.
Mm-hmm. Luke, I know that you've been hitting several links the last couple of weeks. Is there one that stood out for you?
Yeah, I was actually just telling Carl this right before we started, but I watched my in-laws' church. I've tried using this actually as a chance to watch as many different churches as possible, which has kind of been fun for me. So I would love for you all to, in the chat, maybe just show a link of your service, your church, because I think it would be fun to be able to kind of watch some of y'all's as you guys are going through this. But yeah, 7rivers.org is the one that we watched this week, and I actually am really encouraged by them. My in-laws live in a pretty rural area about an hour outside of Tampa, Florida. And what's cool about what they did is they pre-recorded the whole thing on Wednesday. One of their pastors is actually who married us, so I've been texting with him. And they did something very interesting, which may be a conversation starter for us. You can't actually watch it without RSVPing. And at first I thought this was maybe a way to limit on bandwidth or something, or I don't know, but I actually think it's probably a way to get information of who's attending their services, because they're putting you in some sort of email drip campaign that then engages you afterwards. And I think Stephen Brewster's on here, and maybe he can speak a little bit into this, because I know he just put out a whole free resource on how to stay engaged with people. But they basically, you fill out this email form, then right before the service, they send you an email with a link, and it's on demand. So it's 10 minutes before the service starts. It's an on-demand video. My wife and I clicked on it, and then honestly, we got distracted and then pressed pause, and then we were able to continue. So we're kind of able to watch at our own pace without it causing any sort of disruption. It's not like we missed something because we got a phone call from a family member. So that was kind of a neat idea to just create that drip campaign. It's an on-demand, it goes into a website, but now they have our information so they know who's watching, and there's an easy way to follow up. But Brewster, I don't know if you want to jump in for a second and kind of talk through your, follow-up stuff and how to engage.
I've just been talking to a bunch of friends and listening to how, like Church Online platform, in the first 9 years, there was like 25,000 churches that downloaded the resource. And then over the last 3 weeks, there's like 21,000 people that have downloaded the resource. So all of these churches now are like, oh, what do we do with this? Like, oh, I have this Ferrari in my garage and I don't know how to drive. And so I think how we think about moving somebody from being an IP lurker to part of our community has to completely change. And we're doing it like this weekend is Easter. It's going to be the record attendance for every church ever because of the analytics that we look at. And so I think there's a few like practical things that we have to do. We got to like chase people when they raise their hand. So every time someone comments, shares, likes, hearts, comments, whatever it is, like we can't rely on one method to assimilate these folks. So, having them text in is awesome. Having them fill out a digital card is awesome. Having them log in through Facebook is awesome. But there's so many more ways, because when we had a building, everyone came through the same 5 doors. Now people are coming and going through all kinds of doors and windows and secret passages. And so we've got to be more aggressive in how we're attacking and being offensive in gaining information from people. So one of the things that we're trying to help churches realize is you can't have one host. You've got to have multiple hosts, a minimum of 2 hosts. One host who's just keeping the conversation going and the engagement going, asking certain questions to draw people out of the shadows and into the comments. But then another person who's literally who's logging on a spreadsheet every username, every time somebody comments, every time somebody shares, every time somebody likes, so that we can go back in and inbox, DM, do all of the things that we're going to have to do to follow up it's way different than how we've ever followed up in the past.
That's a good point. All right. Somebody asked this on Facebook, so I'll pose it to the group. How have you balanced having too much noise or providing too many resources for your church, overwhelming them, with being helpful and engaging? Basically, how much is too much? Anybody have any thoughts on that question?
One thing I would say is you got to remember that there's 3 different groups of people that you're trying to communicate to. So you're trying to keep your church community connected. That's one group of people that you're communicating to. Then you're trying to keep the new people that have just tuned into your church out of fear or anxiety or whatever it is, this new group of people that have joined your community in the last 3 weeks. Then the third group is the masses. And so you have to, in this moment, I don't know that there is such a thing as too much. People are going to engage the content they want to engage with. Our responsibility is to give them on-ramps to engage in our community. And so I would NBC has 24 hours a day to program. They don't ever go, oh, you know what? CBS is handling the first 24 hours. We'll just take the second 24 hours, right? So like your church has a mission and a purpose, and your job is to do ministry to the people that you are called to reach regardless of who else is doing what or what the volume feels like. Because as somebody who's sitting at home, I don't see every post that you post. So you're not overwhelming. You're not as overwhelming as you think you are.
Yeah, I'll speak into that. I think you just said something that's really powerful. And I have told my team this for the last 3 or 4 years at SALT conference. Like, we put out a ton of free resources, and we put out a ton of articles and blogs, and we've done Facebook, lives and stuff like that. And I tell my team all the time that, even though I'm an admin in a lot of these groups and on a lot of these social channels, I still miss some of the resources that we put out. I don't see it all. And I think that's so important for each of us in this group or in this call to kind of hear, is that just because you're putting it out and you're very aware of every ounce of media and content that you're putting out in front of your community doesn't mean that everybody, and especially doesn't mean your pastor even, or the person who is, quote, the lead stakeholder of your church, is seeing all these resources. So I 100% agree with Brewster and his sort of assessment. You got a whole bunch of different people. And I think for us and our team, we've kind of drank our own Kool-Aid sometimes and go, man, we're putting out too much. And I think that's something we've talked through so much, is nobody sees all the links that you're putting out there. And so as long as you're keeping it varied, it's not always through the exact same medium, or it's like not always your homepage image. Maybe it's, Carl, you've done a great job of modeling this. When you go to your homepage of 1230 Media, there's a button that says COVID-19 resources, and it's kind of a feed that as you're uploading new stuff, you're putting it in there. I think that's a great place to kind of create, where's the hub? Where is the sort of central place for church? Whether it's children's ministry, youth ministry, sermons, giving, devotionals. Hey, sign up for this program, be a part of our small group on Zoom this week. I think to have a one-stop sort of hub is an important piece, but nobody's going to consume all the content you put out. I don't care how much you put out.
Yeah, it's kind of that, as a teacher, 7 ways, 7 methods kind of thing. It takes, I don't know why we got a meeting time again. That's weird. All right, well, we'll kind of press on, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here in just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to hit on a couple of things real quick. Lower quality video is okay. Focus on good audio. So that's coming up a lot. People can forgive low quality video, but the audio is unforgiving. I mean, if you cannot understand what your pastor is saying, then it's pretty much useless. But but people will forgive the video quality. Let's see. Let me kind of zip through these pretty quickly.
How many of you, I'm going to ask this question. How many of you have rewatched your service since you've gone to, quote, online church? How many have refused to do it because you just can't stomach it? I'd love to know if there's anybody that has something that they are willing to be vulnerable with and just say, hey, I've learned X since rewatching our own service. And we've changed, we've modified, we've pivoted, we've sort of used some of what we've watched. Who wants to speak into that? Nathan, I saw your hand go up first.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for letting me join. This is very cool. Especially, so I love all this tech talk. We do our own show called Cast Us Live, and it's a cool format. What we started doing, and every time it's a learning curve, right? That's the beauty of live. That's kind of why I love it. I'm always taking notes. We're always 2 minutes sweating beforehand, like, okay, dealing with some problem with audio or a cable or something, and the switcher that decided to stop working right at that last moment. So, live, that's the kind of beauty of live video that we love, is doing the cast streaming. And one of the things that we've started doing now is taking that live signal and outputting it to all the social media platforms. Because a few points I've heard too is like not focusing just on one direct platform, but spreading it across and keeping it a very wide and well-rounded campaign, if you will. So not only we are hitting multiple different audiences that have their preference of what they want to log in and tune into, we're doing it all consistently as well. So I go back and watch some of my live. I click through, obviously, don't want to watch the whole thing of myself talking a lot of the times. I just want to get through to make sure everything connected well. But some excellent points made that, one of the first rules you learn in film school is audio is pretty much everything. It's completely clear audio. If we were all breaking out in audio, it wouldn't be possible to have this conversation, but we could all just be a tile that says our name on it and still have an engaging conversation. So yeah, this has been a really cool combo. I just wanted to wrap it up, and thank you for letting me join. Yeah. And I loved the comment, Stephen, you made about 5 doors. I think that's really cool, because you were able to monitor. Now there's just different tools and ways to monitor that, whether it's through your analytics, the data, and all that good stuff, to make sure that you're hitting those right platforms at the right times, on the right preference, with the right messaging. And it's always evolving. I think it's always evolving. Now more, it's just a bigger picture of intangibility, a lot of it, which is very difficult. But the workflow we're doing, we're very proud of and very excited about. Just the fact that we can do a live program, play different programs throughout that segment. So when we refer to something, we'll play a recorded to tape, a live to tape, a pre-recorded video, and then return back to a live broadcast. And I try to always make those like a minute to minute and 15 seconds, because that gives me the ability to adjust or make a change to something while we're live without, and then I get back and then we're just right. Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little segment. It's very exciting, very cool. And then after the whole program that we try to stick to around 30, 45 minutes, it goes right back to scheduled broadcasting of like slides and information and new products and new ideas and tips and tricks. So I'm trying to always give something linear, yet if they want to go back and rewatch it, it is possible. So we've developed this workflow, and I think it would apply very nicely to a lot of services, especially churches, with kind of the same format. Obviously, it's different content, but format is a lot of, and the key of regularity, having something new, having something good, and then good AV. But yeah, thank you for listening. I really appreciate all your comments, and awesome.
Thanks a lot, man.
Drake Farmer, you were wanting to speak into this. What have you learned?
Well, one of the things that I want to add in, I'll be short on this, that one thing to think about too, that we've been learning about or trying to resource our ministries in talking about low quality video isn't just on our Sunday morning, but it's also training up some of our ministry leads and being able to use the equipment properly. So it's not just about our creative arts department being able to put out a good Sunday morning experience, but it's also what our midweek, our communication to our teams, our leaders, how they're using Zoom properly, how they can use a cell phone with a proper mic. And then of course, here up in northern Alberta, Canada, we're still not on, we're at 15 people max on a group at this point, but we're not in houses, but we are preparing for that. And so we're looking at who are the main areas of houses we need to be able to give equipment to, and what can they use, and what would it look like. And so I think at the same time, also looking ahead of what equipment is available to you. And then I would 100% agree that sound is the most important, but also looking at how are we equipping our people who we feel that have a voice and tiering that, and being able to equip them both in equipment, but also in training to be able to use, the tools that's before them. So you don't have the video that's like you're having a conversation like this, and then, the person's holding their phone and you can't see.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's part of his illustration that he froze or
timing couldn't have been better though.
That was awesome. Hey, Luke, as we wrap, do you want to talk about beyond Easter?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in the little bit of time we have left, I think my encouragement this week for those who are on this call is to think beyond this Sunday. I know this Sunday is a big week. I know this Sunday is going to be the biggest online gathering your church has ever held and may ever hold. We don't know what this looks like in the future. I don't think that churches are going to shrink on Easter. I think people are going to be eager to engage with some sort of church community. And so I think this is a great week, but I want you to be thinking beyond that. What happens next week? Do we go back to square one? Does anybody have a plan? Have you met with leadership to say, hey, what does this look like after Easter? And I think the thing I would encourage you to start thinking about is after you get through Easter and it's no longer that hustle and grind, take some time to be with your volunteers, appreciate who they are more than what they do. And I think in tech ministry and creative ministry specifically, it's so easy for us to kind of remember what our volunteers do. Those who are not in, all the sort of week in, week out tasks. They're not just making Sunday happen anymore. They're our body. They're some of our lead stakeholders of our church. And I think that is so vital for us to not forget in this time. And so make sure that you're connecting with one another. Your volunteer teams, pour into them. spend this sort of next week to sort of say, hey, how do we as a ministry just come back and be a ministry together and not be so task oriented? Because now that Easter's not in front of us, next week we'll have that window. And then I think the second thing is, how can you grow together? How can this be a time where as a team, you guys can work on training resources? Maybe you grow in how do we increase our skill? We talked about this at the beginning with Salt University, but this may be a great time for you guys to go through some training together, whether it's one-on-one Zoom calls, maybe you record your own training documents on how do you improve your slide designs, or how do you make better announcements, or increase, your skill set in a certain graphic design area. I don't know, but I think you can learn together, and I think you can grow together as we pivot into next week.
Yeah. Well, Luke, do you want to end us in prayer?
I would love to. Let's pray, guys. Lord, I just pray for every voice listening that you would just use us this week to bring the kingdom here on earth into the communities that need it. God, give us rest, give us peace, give us endurance to run the race and to be able to create experiences that engage our community and help change lives. In your name, amen.
We all want to be great, right? So what's the one thing every great church has? No, it's not more money, more tools, more volunteers, or even a little salt. What every great organization has is a well-trained team. So why is being great so difficult? Because training is difficult. What if you could create automated, virtual, and ongoing training programs for your entire church and track your team's progress? Well, you'd become the hero in your organization, wouldn't you? With the new saltuniversity.com, training has never been easier. Simply log into your account and create a customized training course. You can use any of the countless classes in our library or easily add your own video. Once your custom training course is finished, effortlessly send invites to your team so they can learn at their own pace. Finally, you, as the new training hero in your church, will be able to track your team members' progress and see who has completed the course. Training shouldn't be difficult. We're here to help you make training easier.